This is 7-3 Pre Algebra. All right, really quickly before we get going with the actual lesson, the other day we skimmed on equations with one-step equations with fractions. So I just want to go back over that and give you a little bit of practice before we go to two-step and multi-step equations with fractions and decimals. All right, so if I have 3/5 x equals 9, there's two possible ways that I can solve this. There's an easy way and a hard way. Please don't write the notes for the hard way. Only write the notes for the easy way. So what does this basically mean? 3/5 x equals 9. 3/5 x means to multiply, so the inverse operation of that would be to divide by what you want to get rid of. So we're going to divide by both sides by 3/5. We get this really ugly, scary looking fraction. But we can do this, we can handle it. Any number over itself cancels it out. And so now I'm left with 9 over 3/5. Now remember, fractions are really just division problems. So I'm going to rewrite this as a division problem. 9 divided by 3/5. Now how do we divide fractions? We multiply by the reciprocal. The first fraction stays the same. We multiply, and the second fraction is the reciprocal. Now you can cross cancel, which I would suggest, the 3 and the 9. I'm not sure that my PowerPoint does it. 3 goes into 3 once. 3 goes into 9 one time. Divide that 3 times. The common factor out, and 3 times 5 is 15. X is equal to 15. Now, like I said, this is very long, takes more work, so it's worth it for you to learn the shortcut. Anytime you see a fraction in an equation, the easiest thing to do would be to just jump right down to this step down here where we are multiplying by the reciprocal. If there's a fraction in it, you're going to multiply by the reciprocal of what the coefficient of x is. So in this case, the coefficient is 3/5. So I'm going to multiply both sides of the equation by the reciprocal of 3/5. My 5's cancel out, my 3's cancel out, and I'm left with 9 times 5 over 3, which is 45/3. Or if you cross cancel, the 3 divides into 3 once, and 3 divides into 9, and so it's 15. X equals 15. Now you can check your work by plugging that number into the equation, and both sides of the equation should be equal. Okay, so one more time, we jump right down to this step. All right, so stop the recording, and now you do the next four. Sorry. All right, now check your work. Y is equal to 49 for number 1. Number 2, don't forget about that negative. We're still going to be multiplying by the reciprocal. I'll include another negative with it so we can clear the negative. M equals negative 27. Number 3, X is equal to 56. And number 4, M is equal to negative 11 and 1/4. Or negative 45/4. All right, now let's try it with a two-step equation. So remember, with two-step equations, this is actually a longer way. What today's lesson really is about is how to clear a fraction. So you can use one of two methods. But first, let's try and just deal with the fraction. So step 1, we're going to undo our adding and subtracting first, this 10. So we're going to subtract both sides by 10. Left with negative 3/4 x equals 18. Now I'm multiplying both sides by the reciprocal of negative 3/4, and it would be negative 4/3. Cross cancel, and I'm left with x is equal to negative 24. Now stop the recording and you continue the next 3 problems. All right, now check your work. Number 6, x is equal to 18. Number 7, x is equal to negative 18. Number 8, x is equal to 32. All right, so that was really kind of, I know it was half our lesson, but let's continue. Now, I'm going to show you something that we use in algebra. In algebra, quite often what we do is instead of dealing with fractions, we get rid of them. We clear them. So if you have a fraction in your problem, let's say you have 1 or if you have 2. In this case, we have 2. I'm going to look for the common denominator between the 3 and the 2. And that would be 6. And so if I multiply all terms in the equation by 6, you'll see I can clear my denominator. So when I multiply 6 times 2/3, right, I can cross cancel here. 3 goes into 3 once, 3 goes into 6 twice, and 2 times 2x is 4x. Then I have to distribute my 6 to the negative 5, and I get minus 30. And now I have to distribute the 6 to the 7/2. Now, remember, 2 goes into 2 once and into 6 3 times. 3 times 7 is 21. And now I've gotten rid of my fractions, and all I have to do is deal with whole numbers. So now we add 30 to both sides. I'm left with 4x equals 51. Divide both sides by 4, and x equals 51/4. I'm going to say for today's lesson, you can keep them improper. The mixed number, if you changed it back, it would be 12 3/4. In algebra, pretty much this is how we keep it. We like improper and we keep it improper. But because you guys are in 7th grade, the standard is to be able to switch to a mixed number. But for this lesson, I think it's okay if you leave it improper, but make sure it's a reduced improper. All right, so we'll translate. 2/3 of means times a number less 4 is the same as, is your equal sign, the same as 2/5. So the number we would clear by this time, take a minute, think about it, is 15. Multiply all terms by 15. Now see if you can, I'm going to give you a minute for you to get the next step. All right, now check your work. When I distribute 15 to 2/3, I'm left with, I can cross cancel my 3's, divide out that common factor. I'm left with 5 times 2x is 10x. I'm left with 15 times negative 4 is negative 60. And 3 times 2 is 6. Then to get the x on its own, I undo my adding and subtracting, add 60 to both sides. 10x equals 66. X is equal to 66 over 10. I have to remember I said you can leave it improper, but you must give me a reduced improper. And if you change it to a mixed, here are your answers. You do not need to give both answers. All right. Now this one's a little bit different. So, Before you do anything, what do you want to get rid of? That's right, distributing. Let's distribute. Oh, they're clearing. I suggest distributing. Because this whole thing is really one term. So what I'm worried about is that you may distribute that 6 too much. Because this is one term. This is multiplied by each other. So I'm thinking, you know what? Let me go back and show you with my pen. Okay. So I'm going to veer off from the PowerPoint. My suggestion is you distribute first. I think there's a lot less room for error here. So I'm going to distribute not a 3, but a -3. And so that becomes x over 2 times minus 3x minus 12 equals 2/3. Now I'm going to clear. The number I would clear by has to be what would be the common multiple between 2 and 3, or a common denominator would be 6. So I'm going to multiply by the common multiple of 6. And you can see I can cross cancel. 2 goes into 2 once. 2 goes into 6 3 times. 3 times x is 3x. That's my dog if you hear. Lady. Shh. And now I have to redistribute. I'm not only distributing here, but I have to distribute the 6 here. Everything has to be multiplied by 6. I have to distribute it here and here. You can write it on this side too if you want. Alright, so now I'm left with 3x. Now I go back. 6 times -3x is -18x. 6 times -12 is -72 equals 4. Alright, next step, combine like terms. 3x minus 18x is -15x. 72 equals 4. Add 72. Now -15 equals 76. Lost an x in there somewhere. -15x. Divide both sides by -15. And x is equal to, let's see, 3 is not divisible by 76. The only factors of 15 are 3 and 5. So we can leave it at -76 over 15. Alright, questions? I guess I can't take them right now. Alright, here we go. You can see how to do it without distributing first. Just if you're doing it this way, I just have to remind you that this portion right here is all one term because it's multiplied together. So it only gets multiplied by what you're multiplying in to the 3. All right. All right. Now you try it. Stop the recording and continue. All right, now check your work. Answer that you should have come up with was -3 over 14. If you give me -6 over 28, I will mark it wrong, as it is not reduced, and that is part of your standard. Okay, all right, now, decimals, clearing decimals. Again, my suggestion is you distribute first. My iPad's about to die, so I've, okay, so 4. Whoops, hold on. So I'm distributing 4 times 12 is 48. Now I have 1 decimal digit, so I'm going to move over 1 decimal digit. That was an easy number. Hard time getting my decimal in there. Alright, and now I'm going back to, I have to distribute here. So this would be minus 0 and 4/10 x equals, now notice I'm not distributing the 4 to the 18 because it's not in the parentheses. Now, if I want to clear a decimal, I'm going to multiply by a power of 10 because power of 10s move decimals. So I'm going to multiply. Since I have 1 decimal place, I'm going to multiply by 1 power of 10. If I had 2 decimal places, I'd multiply by 100, 2 zeros. So when I do this, what this becomes is 48 minus, I'm going to move this over once. And let me do this. Let me move the decimals in red. I'm moving this over once, moving this over once, and I'm moving this one that's here that we don't really see. I'm going to move that over once. Okay? So now I have 4x equals 180. And now I don't have to deal with my decimal issues. Subtract 48, subtract 48. Left with negative 4x equals 2. Divide by negative 4. X is equal to 4 into 132. It's 3 times. 34 times. So that would be a negative. I always double check my sign work. Number 1 cause of mistakes. Alright, so that's clearing decimals. Now again, look at how my PowerPoint does it. And you can see, if I'm multiplying by a power 10, I'm only multiplying the first part of that term, which would just be what's getting distributed in. Otherwise, it's double distributing, doing it within the parentheses. Okay? Wow, what did I get? I got a different answer. 4 goes into 32, so I guess my division was wrong. All right, so x equals 33. That seems right. All right, so now we've got our decision to, do I clear with a power of 10, or am I clearing with 2 powers of 10, 10 to the second power, 100? Since there's 2 decimal digits, 1, 2, I'm going to multiply this time by everything by 100. What that does is move my decimal 2 times. Moves it once, twice, moves it once, twice. So it would be 4x minus 800 equals 25. Right? I'm going to use the PowerPoint notes because it's much clearer. Take a minute. This should be your answer. Now, that's the end of today's lesson. Have a good day. Hope you liked it.